Jubilee Sailing Trust has been building the world's largest wooden tall ship since beginning of June 1996 here in Woolston in Southampton. When she's finally completed, she'll be 65 metres long, 10.5 metres in breadth, and will weigh approximately 680 tonnes. She's a three-masted bark, and from the waterline to the tip of the main mast will be a height of 43 metres.
From the drawings of marine architect Tony Castro, it's clear that the new ship is a very complex undertaking. The combination of traditional materials and modern techniques will be a test of the shipwright's skills. From the drawings, the lofting foreman produced full-size templates, which were used to set the jigs on the laminating tables. Every fortnight for almost 2.5 years, a load of Siberian larch was delivered to be moulded to the various components of the ring frames that were soon to be the skeleton of the ship. Once the flat planks had been moulded into shape, they were removed from the moulding tables onto trestles, where the excess resin was removed. This was one of the jobs undertaken by the blue-overalled volunteers, most of whom had paid for the privilege of being involved in this unique project. As the components of each frame were finished, the frame was assembled and given a thin coat of resin to stabilise the moisture content of the wood. Once assembled, the frames were ready to become part of the new ship. From the fixing of frame number 1 at the bow, it took 18 months to shape and assemble the 69 frames that made up most of the 63-metre length of the ship. Some frames were fitted with metal fireproof bulkheads, a safety feature insisted on by the Board of Trade. One of the largest components was the beautifully shaped horn timber. With over 80 laminations, it will become a major part of the stern of the ship. Even in this high technology world, a simple plumb line comes in very useful. A few finishing touches and frame 69, the last one, is ready to be fixed in place. Finally, the framework was finished and she was ready for the next phase. Though still inverted, the laminating of the first of her 3 layers of planking could begin. Individuals, sailing clubs and other organisations were offered the opportunity to have a sponsored plank inscribed and used in the hull of the ship. As the planking neared completion, talk in the yard and the visitor centre was about how the ship would be turned over, the next phase in her construction. A shipbuilding yard in the north of England supplied 2 huge turning rings. Normally used to aid submarine construction, these rings would easily manage the approximately 200 tonnes that the ship weighed at this point. Each ring was turned by a powerful motor, the control and synchronisation of which was to be a major task. Suddenly all the scaffolding was removed. Now she was ready to be rotated.
We will push and see what happens up here, and you must pray that they get it right down there. Are you ready?
Amid much ceremony and almost imperceptibly, the hull began its first and possibly slowest journey through 180 degrees. "I think she's moving," someone said, as motors creaked and whirred. Our stranded whale, our toast rack, was about to become a bird. For 2 long years we'd laboured to realise this dream, from dream to plan, from plan to plank, and then to knee and beam. Now came the day for turning, not just degrees I heard, but dramatic metamorphosis to graceful sea-bound bird. So well done, all you planners, skilled men and volunteers. This day has been your victory, your triumph o'er sea and years. Once she was the right way up, the scaffold was put back. One of the first jobs was to jack up the hollow keel so that it could be fixed in place. Inside the ship, we could now admire some of the beautiful structures we had been creating for more than 2 years. Fitting out carried on inside the hull. Engine control panels were installed. Voyage crew sleeping accommodation was assembled. Outside the hull, chain plates were fitted to anchor the standing rigging. A powerful thruster was fitted in the bow to help manoeuvre the ship. Over the next few weeks, equipment needed to finish the ship began to arrive. Portholes were delivered, miles of cable of various types, watertight safety doors and various items of deck furniture. In the meantime, engineers fitted propellers, generators, power steering motors and the 2 400 horsepower Cummins diesel main engines. Finishing touches outside included painting the hull and deck houses. The teak deck was laid. Equipment arrived for the galley. There was cable everywhere. Elsewhere in the yard, masts and spars were being assembled. As the deck caulkers worked on the ship, small fittings were manufactured by shipwrights. At last, amid the scaffold, we glimpsed the name of the ship, Tenacious. The name was chosen by a benefactor who had donated 1.2 million towards the building cost of 14.5 million. All at once, the scaffold was gone for good. Tenacious was lowered onto a 140-wheeled transporter and moved into the centre of the shed, ready for her big day. In the still unfinished bar area, I asked Robin Hill about the people who had built the ship.
It's a very fitting place to pay a tribute to the international nature of this construction, because very nearly every country has been represented to some degree. The design for our ship is that of Tony Castro, who is a Portuguese naval architect. We've had shipwrights from many different countries: Spain, the Lebanon, South Africa, Denmark, Germany, France, and the shore watch people that I've had the privilege of meeting and looking after have come from the Caribbean, from North America, both Canada and USA, from the Middle East. We've had people from Australia, also Russia.
Early the next morning, the loadout began. Tenacious was moved slowly onto a barge, which would take her down below the Itchen Bridge into deeper water. There, the barge would be sunk, and Tenacious would float off into her true element. Within hours, she was alongside Vosper Thornycroft's yard, just half a mile from where she was built. There, her masts were stepped and she was rigged. Robin Hill completes our story.
I hope very much that everyone who has a dream or a desire to experience tall ship sailing will take the opportunity to sail with the Jubilee Sailing Trust in sail training ship Tenacious.